Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel, or if this happens to be your first time, your first video from me, welcome. You guys know that I make a lot of finance related videos because I feel like it is so important to talk about and everybody can relate to it. So I'm gonna link my playlist called Girl Boss Guide above, which has a ton of financial related videos and also just videos about how to live your best life. We're gonna have that up there if you guys want to go and check out any of those videos after this video. Today I'm gonna be talking about my best and worst financial decisions of the last year and hopefully how I can better some of these decisions this year, which is a big goal of mine to have a great year financially. Last year I was able to increase my income and I didn't meet my income goal that I set for last year, but I got really close and I did increase it a lot from the previous year. So this year I'm hoping to do that again, but increase it even more. So I encourage you guys to set an income goal for yourself for the year because it's always just a great thing to be able to work towards. I saw another YouTuber make this type of video, so I wanted to give a shout out to Michelle Reed. I'm gonna link hers in the description box below because it definitely helped inspire this idea. Let's do it. Hopefully this will help you guys out. I'm going to start off with my worst financial decisions of last year. We'll start off with the bad and we'll work our way up to the good. So stick around till the end of this video if you want to hear, you know, everything. And also if you are not subscribed, maybe you're just seeing this video for the first time, I would love and appreciate it if you subscribed. That is just going to be like the first link in the description box down below. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into my worst financial decisions of last year. My number one regret of last year, and I am seriously making this my top priority this year because there's just no excuse for it, honestly. So my number one thing last year was not budgeting correctly for my taxes. So I am self-employed, which means that my taxes don't get taken out automatically and I have to make those payments myself throughout the year. I have been self-employed for almost 10 years now, so you would think that I would be used to this, but I'm telling you guys, I'm just bad at this. Like, I'm bad at remembering to factor in what I'm gonna have to pay for my taxes, mostly because my job is so up and down and very, very inconsistent in the sense that my taxes that I pay like 4 times a year, I do quarterly payments. They are always so different. So you can never calculate that it's going to be about this much. It's completely different from one quarter to the next, which makes it very hard, but I am determined this year to actually just get better at that and kind of trying to save more than I think I'm gonna need because that's always better than not having saved enough for them. Taxes are a bitch and they suck, but it's part of being an adult and it's a very big part of my job. I have to pay a lot of taxes being self-employed and I just really need and will get better at that this year. So that is a big regret, is not budgeting correctly and making it important enough to budget for my taxes because I know I'm gonna have to pay them, so might as well just save some money for them, right? My second worst financial mistake of the last year, which I don't know if I would call it a mistake, it's just kind of like one of those things that I decided was going to be worth it for me, but I was gonna have to bite the bullet a little bit, which I'm talking about moving last year and my rent increasing. I do think it was worth it for me, but it definitely is, you know, I live alone. So if you live alone and you make that decision to not have roommates, which at this time in my life, I've lived alone for the past 5 years and I don't really want to have roommates at this time. I'm not saying I never will again, but it's just something that I love living alone and I thrive living alone. So that means that your rent is gonna be at least double the amount as it would be if you had one roommate. I know a lot of people don't have the luxury of being able to live alone, especially with rent prices in a lot of cities being so high and going up. I did move into a place that was, what would the increase be? It was about $450 more a month than my last house. It is so much bigger, so much nicer, and I am so much happier. So for me, it was worth it, but at the same time, it would have been amazing to be able to find a place that was about the same price or cheaper than I moved into right now. And I did look at places for like 6 months. So I kind of settled on something that was a little bit very high up in what I wanted to pay, but I absolutely love it. Renting is also also kind of unfortunate because you know, you obviously have a place to call home, you have a roof over your head, and it's so normal to rent when you're like in your 20s and even older than that. And I am really not ready to buy a house, okay? Like, so many YouTubers bought houses in the past year, I feel like, and I'm like, girl, I'm nowhere near ready for that. Like, I probably won't buy a house till I'm 30 at the earliest. I'm just in no rush. Like, I don't like the idea of settling down, so we'll see how that works out. But renting, you don't get anything back from it other than actually just having somewhere to live. You don't make an investment when like buying. It's not a great financial decision, but it's part of living, you know, having a place to call home, right? But obviously I could have cheaper taste and have a place to call home that isn't so expensive, but it's not as expensive as when I lived in LA, so I'm happy about that. My next worst financial decision of last year is getting a loan when I purchased my car. So I saved up for a very long time to be able to buy the car that I wanted to last year. At the end, when I had most of the money, but I could have saved a little bit longer, I was so excited and I started like going and looking at the car and feeling like, oh, this is the one, like they have the color and like the interior that I want, and it was a little bit hard to find it here in Boise. I planned on saving up all of the money for the car before I went to buy it, and then like I said, I kind of rushed the decision a little bit at the end because I got really excited about buying my car. And I didn't forget to factor in taxes, but I was like, you know, taxes are gonna be a thing. I don't know exactly how much it's gonna be, but I'm gonna have taxes. And I didn't plan on going in and going to have a car loan, so I paid for like 85% of the car, which is great. Like, I paid for a lot of it. Like I said, I wanted to pay for the whole thing, but I didn't quite have that much when the taxes and everything came up at the end. You know, you just have those like extra fees when you buy a car. I don't know what they all are, but they definitely add up, especially when you're buying an expensive car. So I do have a car loan, and I do wish I had waited another month or two for some extra money to come in, and then I could have just bought the car actually in full and not had to have had a loan. Because now that I have this loan, which I'm hoping to pay off this year, that's one of my goals. It's not that much money, but I don't like having it and having to pay it every month, and I'm not really in a place right now where I can pay off the whole loan at once, but hopefully at some point this year I will be able to pay it off in full. That is a goal for myself. And it's completely normal to have a car loan, especially when you buy a car. Like, it's normal to get a loan for it, but I just kind of wish that I had waited longer so I could have paid for it in full and not had to worry about having a loan, because having a loan means that you have interest and you pay more for the car than you would have if you just bought it in full. Also, one more thing that I wanted to mention about buying a car, especially being a woman, I definitely would tell you guys to hopefully go with an older person. Like, if you can go with your dad or maybe a trusted adult. I went with my boyfriend at the time. I would kind of recommend going with a guy, because typically you are going to find guy car salesmen. When I went and I bought my car, there was a process after I had decided that I was gonna get the car. You go back into this room and you sign the papers and everything, and they try to sell you all this stuff that they make it seem like you think you need, in addition to already buying the expensive ass car. I knew this was gonna happen, which is the reason I brought Sean. This lady, it was actually a lady, it wasn't even a guy. I thought it was gonna be like a salesman that was pushy on this stuff, but it was a lady, and she was so pushy on trying to get me to get all of this extra stuff and just everything. And I ended up, like, I was so stressed out that I broke down crying, and I was like, I want to call my dad, because my dad is my finance man. He knows what's up. I wish he could have been there with me that day, but I called him on the phone and he actually didn't pick up. It was horrible because I really needed him to give me some advice in that moment, because Sean just didn't know like he didn't want to make this decision for me. But basically I ended up agreeing, kind of not unknowingly, but agreeing in a sense of like, I think I need this thing, to an extra $2,000 for something for my car that's called like perma plate. I don't even know if I'm gonna end up using it, but it basically is something that, like, if you get the interior or the exterior like a dent or the fabric in the car, like it messes up, you can file a claim and they'll replace it for free for the time that I have the car, which maybe it'll end up being worth it for me. I honestly don't know, but I ended up agreeing to have that on my loan as an extra $2,000 charge. And I think when I came back into the room, like I said, I went outside to talk to my dad because I literally started crying because this lady was so pushy. But it was just so much pressure and I was getting really stressed out about money. I came back into the room. I was like, I want to take that off, that extra charge, that extra thing like you convinced me I needed. I want to take it off. And she was like, oh, I already wrote it up into the paperwork, like I can't take it off now. And I was just so stressed out and I didn't know what to do. And I was like, okay, I guess like hopefully I'll end up using it, and I just regret it. I wish I had just been super strict, and that was my plan. But going in there, I'm telling you guys, it's so scary. Like I did not like that experience. Okay, my last worst financial decision, that one I talked about for quite some time. It was a little bit traumatizing, but my last one is not saving more for an emergency rainy day fund. Everyone always tells you that you need to have an emergency savings fund, but I've never really had one, like a specific one, and I think it just would have been really helpful for times like when I did get behind on my taxes and things like that. It would have just been really nice to have that fund for, oh shit, like I didn't know that this expense was gonna come up. You know, you never know if you're gonna get sick or your pet is gonna get sick or anything like that, or you're gonna have an unexpected like medical expense or whatever it is. So I'm definitely going to try to be better about having that emergency savings fund for this year, because it's just probably gonna help you out at some point. All right, so those were my regrets slash my worst financial decisions of last year, and now we're gonna get into the positives and hopefully help you guys out and talk about some of the best ones that I made last year. So the first one is I did actually open, for the first time, I opened like a savings account that was separate from just my bank account, because you guys might know, typically with most banks, credit unions are better, but with most banks, you're not making a bunch of interest on your savings if it's in a savings account. With that being said, there are several places online slash like credit unions where you can get a better rate. What is it called? Like APR. It's called some sort of a rate. I'll put it right here on the screen, where you can basically make more money on your savings and interest over time. I opened a high yield savings account with American Express, where I was basically going to be getting a lot more on my savings, especially the more money you have in there, you are really going to start seeing an increase. Another thing that's really helpful about having an account like this, at least for me, is that it wasn't just in my like typical banking app, and I couldn't just as easily go on and like spend that money. It was money that was really separate from what was in my, you know, like day-to-day checking and savings account. So that made it really easy for me to separate those two and be like, this is savings and this is more of my everyday spending money. So also it's pretty easy to transfer like money in between your banking and your savings account, so that didn't really take very long. I definitely recommend that if you can do that, just to make some more money on money that you're already saving. I mean, why would you not want to make more money on your savings and get more interest and all that kind of jazz? It's just a good thing to do. My next best financial decision was, I guess I didn't start doing this last year, but I continued doing it last year, is really easy, simple investing. So you guys know I've talked to you before about the app that I use for investing, and it makes it super easy, and I'm not investing like tons and tons of money, but it's just helping me get into investing and saving more in that way. So I use the app Acorns. I've talked to you guys about it before. If you get the app, they give you $5 in your account just for joining, so I will have the link to it down in the description box, because if you can get a free $5 and then start saving on top of that, it's just a great place to start, right? I mean, it's not a ton of money, but it's something. I've been using that app probably for like 4 years now, and it's really easy, and it basically allows you to just invest your spare change. So like the money that you're already spending, it just takes like a couple cents off of that and we'll put it into, you know, your savings pot, your investing pot in the app. And you are able to also change that stuff. Like if you need to turn off your little roundups, which is, they call them roundups, you can turn them off for a period of time and turn them back on. Like it's never a full-time commitment. You can turn that on or you can turn it off. So it's super easy to work with. So definitely recommend that. And that is something that I got a lot of benefits from in the last year. But like I said, I've been using that app. My next best financial decision is I was so much more responsible with my credit cards last year. So you guys might know that I've shared before that I got into $15,000 of credit card debt in 2017, and it took me around a year and a half, 2 years to pay off my debt, and it was a horrible experience. I don't recommend it to anyone. I just got into a bad financial place back then, and I actually have a whole video talking about how I paid off my $15,000 in debt. I will link it up here. So I basically had a complete 180 once I paid off my debt, and I was like, I can't ever do that again. I stopped using one of my credit cards completely. I decided not to close it because I think it's more harmful to your credit score to close an account than to just like watch when you're using it. So I just don't really use it anymore. I keep the card in like the top of a closet. And then my main credit card that I still use occasionally, but I don't use it for everyday purchases, and I don't use it on things that I can't afford anymore, is my Delta Amex Sky Miles card, because I like having a card that has travel benefits, and I can get my free bags when I travel with Delta and get points for flying, so that has been helpful to me. But I really try to only use that card for travel related expenses, like for flying when I'm booking a flight, or when I have to pay for a Squirtle or something like that. That's when I'll use that card, and I really try not to use it for everyday expenses unless like I really know that I'm gonna be able to pay it off like essentially immediately. So I was so much more responsible about my credit cards last year, which is just great because like I said, I had a mess going on with credit cards for about like 2 years, and it was just the death of me. I thought about it every night before I went to sleep. It would stress me the fuck out, and I would just, if I could give you guys one tip related to credit cards, it would just be really tough on yourself and be really responsible if you do have a credit card or if you're going to get one, because it is important to have credit, but just be really careful because those interest rates can get super crazy, and you might think you're going to be able to pay it off, and then something comes up and you're not able to, and then that's when you get into the pool of interest and debt and owing more money than you ever spent in the first place, and that's when it makes it not really worth it, or not worth it at all. Just be careful. I talked more about that stuff in my video about my debt, so like I said, go watch that if you want more info on this topic. All right, and my last best financial decision of the last year was contributing to my Roth IRA account. So I'm 25 years old, and I personally luckily began my IRA when I think was a senior in high school. That's when I started it, because you guys know for me, I've been making money from YouTube since I was about 16, 17 years old. And so at that point, you know, I had money to put into my IRA, and I'm so glad that I started it young. So you guys have probably heard this before, but the younger you can start your retirement fund, the better, because over your life, it grows exponentially more if you start it earlier rather than start it when you're 30 or 35. If you can start it when you're younger, like however old you guys are and you're watching this, if you don't have a retirement fund set up, I urge you to do that as early as you can. Even if you're literally contributing $5 a month, that is better than contributing $0 a month. Once again, that money will grow and grow and grow over the years and grow over your lifetime, and you can just really set yourself up for a lot of success when you do retire. And I know it's not something that's like fun to think about, like putting away money for when you're old and you're not working anymore, but it really is important. I know a lot of people have that set up with their jobs, so you know, if you already have one set up with your job, you can, you know, ignore this, but I personally, you know, set up mine myself, or my dad actually helped me set it up. When I was in debt for a couple years, I couldn't contribute to my IRA, or I didn't. I stopped for probably a year and a half putting money into it. I already had a good amount of money in it, so I was like, okay, I can put this on pause while I pay off my debt. And then once my debt was paid off, I was like, let's start putting money in her again. So honestly, I do not put a lot in it per month, and hopefully this year I can increase the monthly contribution that I put in. But like I said, I kind of spend a lot more on like rent, and I have other bills. So it's something that I do put money into, and I started contributing it again to it last year after having that on pause. So that was definitely a good decision. it's better, like I said, to contribute a little bit to any account, whether it's savings or your emergency fund or your retirement. It's better to contribute a little bit of money than nothing at all, because you know that money will grow over time. I'm sure there's more I could think about that were good and bad decisions for me last year, like obviously just spending in general. I could be more strict about my spending. Those are the main ones I could think about that I wanted to share. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and thought that this was helpful or interesting, I would love and appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up, and feel free to leave me a comment down below letting me know other financial related videos you want to see from me, because I love making them. I love talking about money, like, and researching just better ways to be with your money. I love budgeting. I just love all this weird shit that I don't know why it's fun for me, but it's fun for me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you very soon in my next video.